Well, awesome. Everybody, welcome. Nice to have everybody here. Phil, Andrew, thank you so much. It's really great to see you guys.
It's good to be seen.
Good to be here.
Awesome. Really excited for this collaboration between spoken and elegant literature. I think it's going to be a fantastic time. How about you guys?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
we're very excited to collaborate and bring some new ideas to our folks.
Yeah, bring accessible audio narration to our short story writers is going to be fantastic. Before we get into that, though, why don't you guys introduce yourselves so that the viewers know who we're talking to here?
Yeah, super. I'll get us going. So, my name is Phil Marshall, and I am a sci-fi writer. And my background with Andrew is we had developed a conversational AI company in healthcare. We sold that a few years ago, and then I turned my attention to finishing my debut novel. And in that journey, just really embedded myself in the self-publishing realm, some of the new opportunities in that space, but also some of the challenges. And because I'm an audio only reader, that became just really paramount for me is to help people to be able to DIY, self-publish, stream, and monetize the audio of their works. And I guess I've just given the tagline for spoken. So I'll turn it over to Andrew.
Yeah, so like Phil said, we've worked together in the past on consumer and professional applications in AI and conversation. And outside of my day job, I'm also a pretty prolific visual storyteller and moonlighter and ideas guy. And when Phil sort of came to me with this idea for creating some sort of easy way for authors to narrate their work and share it, I was like, wait a minute, this is amazing. I had like flashbacks to when I was a little kid sitting in the back of my like 96 Chevy Suburban with my whole family on a road trip listening to Jim Dale read through Harry Potter in 70 different voices coming from one person going, wow, this is incredible. And thinking about bringing that to anybody is very exciting. So bringing this sort of visual storytelling, the passion for audio only reading into one spot is what brought us together and brings us here now.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's a good some founding stories and inspiration in there. So I guess let's get right into what spoken is in a nutshell. We may have to ask our editors to put this before your introduction, so you didn't get all the spoilers in there. But tell us what spoken's all about.
I'm all about spoilers in my works. I screw that up all the time. Spoken is really an amalgamation of two things that have never been brought together before. And that is the ability, on the one hand, for authors to be able to DIY, create, and self-publish their own audio of their works with the streaming platform that allows them to share and ultimately monetize that work. So bringing those two things together under one roof is what we do. And so people ask us, well, are you like this? Are you like that? Are you like 11 Labs? No, because 11 Labs is a big partner of ours that helps us to create great voices for the work. They're a part of the studio that create and self-publishing workflow process. Are you like, Spotify? Well, not really, because Spotify doesn't have the creation part. And so, yes, we do the streaming. We'll get into the business model here in a bit. But bringing those two things together is really uniquely spoken.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you touched on this a little bit in your introductions as well. But what really made you decide to create spoken as a whole?
Yeah, it was a personal challenge, actually. So I had turned towards completing my debut novel, but I also was in workshops and I was meeting so many people and creating short stories and novelettes and so when I went to go and create the audio for those short works. The workflow behind that was very, very challenging. And I have a particular desire for multicast, what we call multi-character, multi-voice. And so being able to do that in an artisanal way, right? The old fashioned way, even if you're using 11 Labs for the voices, this was before they had projects and before any of that. And so I just found that the workflow itself was so incredibly challenging. And then I finally created a work that was completed and I was really happy with it. And I had nowhere to put it. And I certainly had nowhere to put it that would actually allow me to make a little bit of money on listening from it. And so it was those needs that I personally found that drove the origin of the company.
Fantastic. So it was really a personal problem that you solved for yourself and are now bringing it to kind of the general author community.
People have accused me for creating Spoken just so I could publish my own damn works. But I will say that for my novel, I have queried 100 agents and been rejected 100 times. So I'm just getting started on being rejected by the traditionally published world. So,
Not
but
even
yes,
very many. It's not even very many compared to some authors.
that's probably true. But in all seriousness, I really it really was from a personal passion. And Andrew, with his storytelling background and his desire to help people in the creator economy do well, it was just a great match.
You know, as the person who stays up super late reading r/no sleep, going, wow, all these people, they have such incredible stories and be like amazed, like who would have thought of this? And scrolling through that, you know, they don't have any information in their bios, they don't really have brands that they're building for themselves, and giving them a tool where they can actually sort of prosper based on the work that they either already have or the kind of work they like to create in short form and you know, and other outlets, giving them a tool to build their brand around that, we think is going to be just super helpful. And I wanted to empower that any way I could.
Yeah, fantastic. It sounds like from what you just said, this tool of Spoken isn't just for, the traditional novelist that we think of as an author and as a writer. It can be used by fan fiction authors, by people, posting, they're on No Sleep on Reddit that gives them a tool to bring their stories somewhere else. Is that correct?
That's absolutely right. In fact, when we started the company, we only supported standalone short works, and so all of the writers that have begun to use Spoken so far, and we have a number of them. Ian O'Grady on horror, Jesse Quack on sci-fi. We've got Cody Cisco and a whole wide variety. Peter Zuckerman, whole wide variety of them. So far, those are all short works. And so now that we're adding full audiobook publication, now we'll see how that equation changes. But we have a belief, and that is short form has really found no avenue to be monetizable. Podcasting is really kind of your only avenue for short form, and that's not monetized by the vast majority of podcasts. And so we see an enormous opportunity to equitably get paid for good quality short form in addition to long form. And we're not gonna distinguish between the two. If you want to monetize short form, you should. Although audiobooks is certainly going to be, I think, a dominant form. It's going to be right in there with short form. And if you think about how they live together, a given author's work might have 5 short stories in the same universe. Those become teasers for selling their audiobook. And so I really believe that what we're building is something that brings all of those different forms together in one cohesive, unified streaming network.
Yeah, and it sounds like a really great initiative. And something you just said there, it brings me to my next question is how do you differentiate yourself from other self-publishing platforms, other audio platforms, any competitors people might start comparing you to?
Yeah, well, I've already mentioned a couple of them that they mention, although it's pretty easy to distinguish when you bring both the DIY, create and self-publish part of it with the streaming, sharing and socializing and monetizing part of it, because there's going to be a lot of social and community aspects to that as well that I know Andrew will be able to expound upon. When you bring those two things together, you're really I mean, I hate to say it because we're a startup and you always want to say, well, there's nobody like us, right? And everybody always says that. But the truth is, that if you were to sit down at any platform for self-publishing audio right now, you either don't have in a single sitting the ability to DIY that, right? In that platform, or if you do, you don't have where to stream, socialize, and monetize that work all in one place. And so, yeah, we've got competitors on both sides of the equation there. But I think what we're offering is just going to make an easy turnkey solution, and economically, which I think we'll probably get into the business model behind this. But economically, I just think it's going to make all the sense in the world.
Yeah, right on. Now I mean, we've been hanging out a couple of times in over the last month, and getting to know you guys pretty well. And I know that Spoken isn't just another tool to bring audio work to readers. So how does Spoken reimagine the audio and the work for self-published authors and the people going to be using your platform?
Yeah, it's fascinating. So what's sort of the traditional model? The traditional model is that you hire a voice actor, you do a single narrator for your work, and that's an expensive proposition. We still, by the way, believe that studio recordings and voice actors are the gold standard. But what are some of the new opportunities that we have? How are we reimagining, as you said, this process? And so when you put a written work through the kind of analysis that we're putting it through, which is just it's mind-boggling the amount of analysis that we're able to do with regard to not just things like summary, but also those exact channel tags, those words, those phrases that people could use for discovery. And then we can start to amalgamate those channel tags into clusters where if you like this kind of work over here at this length and this style, then you're probably going to like this over here, right? So all that discovery stuff becomes very interesting. Well, that happens with that analysis phase of the work and all the safety ratings analysis that we can do, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so take that alone, that prepares what we're now able to do. And that is character analysis, surfacing just exactly the right voice for that narrator, if you're a single narrator, or for each of the characters, if you decide to do multi-character, multi-voice, what we call MCMV. Now, doing that alone was inaccessible in the past, just completely inaccessible. Doing multicast works was just not in the realm of real possibility. So that right there, a big driver of why I created
Or it'd be
Spoken.
incredibly expensive, right? Like hiring an entire cast of actors in order to create your product rather than one.
One of the sort of big things we like to talk about is just the lowering of the barrier for access to high quality, right? It's not the gold standard, but it's very, very high quality that allows people to create a monetizable asset that they didn't have before, right? It's democratizing access to voice, and allowing people to do it quickly and easily and affordably in a way that was never possible before. And that's something we get very
Yeah,
excited.
we're very excited about it. And so if you think about kind of what happens with that, well, okay, now all of a sudden you've got any length, right? Short form, tiny form, poetry, all the way up to fanfic, up to short stories, novelettes, full novel series, right? Like full, epic fantasy, multi-book series. Um, and and now you potentially start to write a little bit different if you do multicast. I mean, certainly single narrator is 90% of our work because the narrative cohesion, all of it's just easy peasy. It's great. It's high quality. The author doesn't have to do as much work as they do on MCMV. But MCMV multicast is not terribly difficult, especially compared to the historical norm. But what happens is by reimagining this in such a way that makes that accessible, we're having writers actually change the way they write, where they're now writing in the direction of more of an audio drama where they don't have to use as many dialogue tags because you're hearing the voice actually speak those lines. And so that becomes exciting on how do people start to write for the audio medium that they didn't necessarily write for in the past. And so when you combine that with things like just the ability to control your own visual imagery and how the discoverability occurs, and we'll get into the business model. It's reimagining things in a lot of ways.
Right. Some pretty impressive tool sets and applications that writers can use. And I know I've had a spin on it, and it's pretty amazing what your tool can accomplish in such a short amount of time with such a lower cost relative to what it would have been before spoken. A year or 2 years ago, it's expensive. So on that note, what type of payment model is Spoken going to have, and how is it better than what authors already have access to in the publishing industry, well, in the audio work publishing industry, I should say?
So this is I'll take this one. This is something that we think is going to be pretty disruptive, and from our little trade show tour that we've been on, we've heard the same. Um, Originally, we had set out to create an all-you-can-eat type streaming service, and what we were calling Spoken was like an Instagram meets Spotify, right? Where you can build your little brand, but you can also receive equitable payment for your listeners and the time they spend with your work and not anyone else's, right? And receiving a portion of their subscription. Well, after really diving into the self-publishing community and understanding how these users who are actually entrepreneurs managing their own little empires operate, we decided to sort of enhance the economic model that we built for Spoken, so that after right now, the beta is totally free. Anyone can go in and narrate their work for free if they're curious. But once we start to turn on our economic model, the system actually splits into three different tiers. There's free content. Anyone and everyone that comes to the network can pay at cost to narrate their work and publish it on Spoken, but make it accessible for free. And it costs nothing to come and check it out. In addition, we do have the subscription model, so more premium content, more exclusive releases, things like that, all available in an all-you-can-eat way so that users can come and subscribe. They'll have access to the free network, access to this premium content. And then to support the entrepreneurs out there that already have a massive body of work and have their little empires set up and running on ACX and running on Findaway Voices. We want to enable them to use this as another revenue stream and enable direct sales, right? Either from their own personal storefront or a network sale right on Spoken, so that all of this content, free subscription and direct sale content, live in this unified content network. And the sort of discoverability model that we've made will surface exactly the right piece of content to folks that are curious and browsing and recommend across any one of those tiers. There are no ads on Spoken. The only thing that really lives on Spoken is promoting the content we think you as a listeners are going to find the most interesting based on your own personal taste. As far as the economics, we are working out exactly what the right split is, but where we are landing right now is going to be truly disruptive compared to anything else on the market. For all you can eat subscription revenue, we're looking at about we have established it's going to be a 50-50 split. So half of all subscription revenue comes to us to keep the lights on. The other half goes directly and proportionally to the writers that a listener spends their time listening to. There's no Taylor Swift effect where the most engaging user sucks up the largest chunk of cash because they have the most streams. It is going to be very direct and specific to who is engaging with your work. On the direct sales side, something that's what we're experimenting with here is something that's pretty disruptive. If you're going to do a direct sale, if you typically go through Amazon or other channels, it can be up to 40% is what you take with your sale, right? There's the creation of the asset, there's royalty management, all sorts of weird exclusivity clauses. We don't want any exclusivity at all. It is your content, you made it, you're using Spoken to promote your content to your network. We're offering the tool to allow you to have a direct sale. But you ultimately have the power as the author on our network to decide what revenue streams do you want to tap into? How much free content do you want to have to drive and build your brand? How many teasers do you want to have for the first book of your 10-book series? Is the first one going to be free? And does that act as its own promotion tool for the rest of that series? All of it is completely charted by you, the user. And we sort of just put the tools in place in a very disruptive pricing way that allows you to kind of build your revenue strategy however you want.
Fantastic. I mean, that's one of the biggest concerns for authors. I know is how are you monetizing your work? And when new authors come into the industry, especially in the written side of it, which I'm more familiar with than the audio side, they're often astounded at the royalty rates that authors receive. They get 15, they get with traditional publishing, and they're going to get 15% of sales or something like that. And so to see numbers like 50%. That's got to be encouraging, and it certainly gives confidence to us, and hopefully, authors are actually going to be able to earn money proportional to the work that they put in, which is often the biggest. I'm forgetting the word here, but the biggest disparity between writing a novel and how much money you might make from that novel, especially as a newer or first-time author. So having a place that you can put it on and promote it and earn disproportionately is a fantastic thing. Another big concern that authors have, though, is with the new emergence of AI and how that affects it. And I know from speaking with the two of you, I have confidence in the way that you're running AI with your business. That's why I'm happy to kind of attach elegant literature to this. I think this is what you're doing is the right use of AI as a tool. But I know that authors in our community and people watching this are going to be skeptical and are going to be concerned about exactly how AI is involved in spoken, how their work is going to be used on their platform, how it's used in creation. So, can you tell me a little bit about how spoken is taking advantage of AI and how that is a good thing for authors in this situation and for readers and for voice actors and all the creatives involved in what we're doing here?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to. So all of the things that you'll see with the product and all the things, the benefits that we've talked about with Spoken, that's really only now enabled because of AI, because of the analysis of the work, because of the character description, because of the accessibility and price of the narration itself. So that's what makes that economically viable and possible. But it still, doesn't let us off the hook on doing it responsibly and ethically, right? I think people have a lot of concern around AI for good reason. I think there's a lot of misunderstandings on how the models are built and all of that, but there's a couple of things that every writer should know when it comes to spoken, and one is that spoken never takes any rights at all. You have rights over your work. You retain all rights over your work. The second thing is that when it comes to actually putting your work through the analysis, writers bring their words. You bring your words. We're not going to use AI to change your art. Okay. And that's key. What we're doing is helping make it accessible that you bring great audio storytelling to listeners based on the art that you've created. And so our goal is very singularly focused around helping bring your words to life, right? Give your writing its voice is our tagline. And so what does it take to do that and do it responsibly and ethically? Well, first of all, we believe in voice actors. If you have your studio recording, upload it on Spoken and put it through that monetization process, right? Take full advantage of these new both subscription and direct sales opportunities with your studio recordings. We love that. But if you're going to generate your content on Spoken and using the AI tools that we have, the library is voice actors that get paid for every use. We now have about 250, I think, on the network across, both every demographic really that you can think of, and most all of them speak 32 languages. We can put that off to the side, but the localization or the internationalization of an author's works is an entire opportunity that we are so well prepared to capitalize upon because of the approach that we take. When you asked earlier what's different, I didn't say that because it's off, probably a few months for us, but that is and just like, come on, move along. Okay, so so I will move along. But but um, but when it comes to AI, using voice actor voices, allowing you to create a custom voice if you need to, but really defaulting to those voice actor voices is one way that we really want to make sure that we're sticking within the lanes on doing this appropriately.
So
There, and done with that.
just for clarity there, the voice actors are real people who are real voice actors who have cloned their voice using AI by choice and made it available to you. And when their voice is used by an author to create an audio version of their work, the voice actor is getting paid.
You
Yep, they're
got it.
receiving a royalty payment from 11 Labs system. So they've created a whole sort of creator economy on their side that we are able to take advantage of that allows these users to receive like at a per character level payment based on the sort of passive use of their asset. The voice clone is an asset that can go out and make a voice actor money when they're not necessarily available. There's a whole new doorway opening up for voice talent out there with the advent of this passive tool for them. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, that is great. And from the writer side, what we're talking about with Spoken is a writer, a human writer who's produced their work on their own. It's their human art, and they're bringing it to Spoken to just use as a tool to turn it into an audiobook without, making a lot of AI changes. It's not AI written work. You're just using that tool. But when they run it through your system, what is the AI doing? Is it using it for learning for other things? Is it, because a lot of authors are very hesitant to run their stories through any sort of AI system because that can be used and where the whole thing with visual art and the mid journey and those kind of AI are basically plagiarizing from other visual artists and copying their style. It's a big concern for writers these days, and we want to make
Yeah,
sure when we run our work through any online system, it's not going to be used to train AI who can then regurgitate our style of story, right?
yeah, I think it's a really good point. And so yes, on that LLM analysis, we aren't then purposing that for training. And so it really is kind of that standalone process. We do use a lot of particularly trained LLMs in order to be able to achieve what we do. But yeah, what you said is correct.
Fantastic. Um, So, knowing that, now we're talking, it's ethical for everybody involved. The writers, it's their art. Where they're getting it, and they're the voice actors that they're using. It's more cost effective for writers, and the voice actors getting paid. The readers are paying a better subscription fee, getting access to lots of audio work rather than potentially paying, exorbitant fees per audiobook with other competitors. What can you compare the time and the cost of spoken with traditional audio publishing? And we've already talked about, we've said it's affordable and it's faster, but how exactly much more affordable is it? How much faster is it? And how does it compare to current tools that audio writers have access to?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I just saw this because we're deploying a whole full audiobook upload and publishing feature. I just saw my own novel go through this on the system just not long ago this morning. And so we do several levels of analysis, and let's just take it all the way to the end extreme and say you're doing a multicast work. And so 145,000 word novel is what mine is. It should be shorter. Sorry, it's not. And so, but but we'll go through an initial classification and analysis. And taking an entire novel through that particular part takes about 4 minutes right now, about 4 minutes or so. And then we go through, if you choose multicast, we take it through two different full novel parsing processes to analyze characters, etc. That takes about another 5 minutes and 5 to 10 minutes, I would say. And then actually narrating would take probably around 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So really, right now, as the state of the art in doing a full novel from start to finish and publish, you could do it in less than a half an hour total. We'll email you when each of these steps is done if you don't want to sit and watch. But even that right there, just from a time perspective, is remarkable. Of course, the cost is pennies compared to what you would have spent previously. A cost for doing, even with a different voice for every character that you've created. Think about that, right? George R. R. Martin, are you listening right now? And so think about that. That's just an amazing capability. But doing that or doing single narrator, that actually doesn't change your cost at all. And so you're looking at anywhere from a full novel being maybe $20 on the very lowest end for some of your cheapest voices, and don't have a lot of that character inflection at all, up to maybe 100 to 125, $150 at the top for a full audiobook multicast with re-narrating things that weren't just right. You can actually speak. That's one of the things we didn't talk about earlier. You can actually speak into spoken exactly how you want a passage delivered if it needs to be delivered in a certain way, and it will come out in that character's voice exactly as you spoke it. We call that speak it. So even with all that, you're talking about really pennies on the dollar compared to traditional audio publishing.
Just as a
Go
point
ahead.
of reference, the union rate for per finished hour of the gold standard is $250. So if you have a 100,000 word audiobook and that's about 10 hours of
20 hours.
listening, that's a
So it's about
25
20. Yeah, it's about 20 hours. So it's about 5,000.
2,500 to $5,000 compared to $100 to $150 is, just mind-blowingly economic advantage for all, writers of all shapes and sizes who want to get their work out there and make a little bit of money off of it.
And it's not the terrible AI voice that you hear across a lot of other media that a lot of people are using, because you have actual voice actors that have
Yeah.
cloned their voices. So you're getting a higher quality product,
That
which is the exciting.
horrible TikTok voice that's like, you'll never guess what happened. It's not that.
Yeah,
It's
it is the
absolutely
worst. It is the worst. And so I'm glad we mentioned that. If we're not like, how do we go away from that terrible AI voice? So another thing that I want to talk about is community. Community is so important, especially in, for every business everywhere now, community, everybody's got a community associated with their brand, but the community within the author world, within the publishing industry, between professional authors, between new authors, it is a large and very good community. And everybody is finding a home, because writing is often lonely and solitary work. And readers aren't always able to get in touch with their authors. But now, as an author, you want to build a community around your work. You want to build your author brand. You want to get in touch with your fans, with your readers, get engagement, and sometimes even get input on your work and what your next writing thing is going to be. So community is a very important thing to have in for a writer. So how is Spoken building a community that supports writers and supports listeners, which would be readers of audiobooks?
When we sort of set out to build Spoken, we started with that first major component, which was the studio experience that allows you to sort of economically and quickly build an audio asset. And then we went, wait, hang on a minute. How do you get that asset out there? ACX, they don't allow you to bring AI narrated work from outside. I think they're just starting to dabble with that now. All the other sort of streaming platforms have their own sort of hoops that you have to jump through. And we went, well, what if we just built it, right? What if we had the tool where you can create the asset and then also bring this into a marketplace or an economy that people can interact with, and it's dynamic and it's interesting, and oh, at this price point, and the fact that you can bring an asset that is as short as 100 words or as long as a multi-novel saga. What kind of new opportunities are there going to be, because audio content has never existed in this shorter medium form before. So bringing all of these sort of things together around, into an open community that people can sort of freely bounce around from one place to another place based on taste, we think is going to be really interesting. But another really compelling idea is around this idea of channel tags. So if you've gone on Reddit or you've spent any time sort of dabbling through your local bookstore, and they have sort of the classifications of work that you can go and browse, right? Whether you're learning to get lost in a world, or you're looking to get lost in a world, or you're looking to go and explore something and learn a new subject. We have sort of designed Spoken so that one of those levels of AI analysis actually helps you to put your work on the bookshelf where it's going to be found. So if you have a deep sea terror, super niche sort of subgenre of horror, there are probably people out there who want to scratch just that itch of that piece of content, right? So we actually help you to create that channel, right, by assigning a channel tag to your work. But then we also reference other works to make sure that, yes, this is in fact a great place for this to live. And we start to coalesce types of content into one sort of area where it can go and be found. The other component is that, like, this is a new media format, right? There's going to be a sort of tide, we imagine, of content that has never been accessible in this way. And we want to support the sort of liking, the following, the engagement, the sort of social ecosystems that we're familiar with and have been, trained on now for nearly 20 years, and bring that into a community that has sort of lacked the ability to quickly and easily build an upward mobility for themselves with these sort of social engagement features. So we're going to bring some of those in, and we have a bunch of ideas up our sleeves for how we can take it steps further. Some very interesting sort of time-based interactions for passages and stories, sharing content, visual generation, all sorts of really interesting new media ideas. But really, we think at the end of the day, bringing authors and writers together with their listeners through discovery, through existing their existing channels, and then even allowing those users to connect, listeners and listeners, curating collections themselves, and sort of establishing themselves as tastemakers, or allowing writers to connect with other writers and find community in the most unlikely places based on interest, taste, genre. All of these kinds of things we're very excited to bring, and we think our community is really going to love it.
Yeah, wonderful. Looks like lots of tools for supporting community. So I know anybody watching this interview who's got up to this far is going to say, okay, spoken sounds great. How the hell does it actually work? How do I use it? So I think what you guys got is a little bit of a demo for us so that anybody watching this can see exactly the power and the speed and the quality of spoken, right? So do you want to get into that?
Yeah, let's do it. So let me just go ahead and share my screen here. So Spoken is currently in a free beta currently. And so any person, any writer, any listener can go on for free and register. And when a writer goes on currently and they hit the create button here, which is Spoken Studio, which I'll go into in just a moment, you'll request access. And as long as you've done some work, you maybe just have done it on Reddit, maybe you have an author page, maybe you've got something on Medium, just show that you, in fact, have done some writing in the past, and we'll let you in and we'll let you use this tool completely for free, including right now in the beta, free narration as well. And so you'll be able to really test everything out, and we hope that you'll give us a lot of feedback on it. But remember that Spoken is two things. It is the create and self-publish side of it, but it's also the streaming, social, and monetization part. The monetization will come in 2025, but right now you can see on the network currently that there's a lot of great content recommended for you, and you can jump back into your recent listens, and when you do that, you'll not only be able to play the work.
I can still smell his stinking aftershave.
Well, that was a nice line. But, were you able to hear that okay, by the way, Craig?
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's great. Okay. So not only will you go right into a work, and these works are optimized for search engines as well. And so search engines can now crawl and find this, although in order to listen, the listener will have to be logged in so that we can track that. That's critical to the model going forward. We also have reviews and ratings now available, and you can see what voices were actually used. This is a single narrator work, so there's only one particular narrator. But very importantly, you can also go into the writer's profile page. So every one of your writers can designate their own username, make sure they have a great photo. They can put in their own personal author website address here for people to click on and go and explore. And so that's really all part of the listening experience is writer profile, as well as all of the works getting in such a state that they're easily shared. You can explore the voice library as well, and so you'll see there they are, voice actor after voice actor on the network, and so you can peruse that, and then let's just go right into. There's discoverability as well, so across all the typical genres, but any topic on the network you're able to go to. But let's go right into Studio. So this is where the magic happens, and so I'll just show you really quickly. Welcome to the Audioverse, which is my favorite little 4-minute short story that involves 3 different characters speculating about being able to change their voices. So it's kind of a fun little meta play on the whole idea. It's a great little test that all of your writers can clone into their own profile and play around with when they're in studio. What you'll notice here is that we've detected what kind of work it is. And that's important because then we make available things like multi-character, multi-voice. We're also going to be deploying duet narration, so you can have a different narrator for romance novels in particular per chapter. But you can see the kind of analysis that we do across the work, and that's the topic tags, the summary, comparable works. That's a little generous of my story here, but I'll take it. And then safety analysis across 6 different safety ratings. Now let's just go ahead and go in and let's just create those passages. And now what we're doing is we're going through and we are using trained models to parse this work into individual passages. And for an entire novel, this is one of those steps that takes maybe 10 minutes or so. But with a short work, it makes pretty quick work of it. And so we've identified the speaking characters here: narrator, Derek, and Sienna. And as soon as we have all of our passages completed, we'll go ahead and we'll start choosing some voices. And because this is my favorite little demo, I know exactly who I'm going to choose. Victoria, and you can see that this is going to be 11 cents for all of the narrator, portion of this work. And so we'll do Chris. And so there's Chris, and now we'll do Ella for that. And so now we've got all of our voices assigned, and we can go and we can see how the work has been divided. And so you can see here between narrator and Derek and Sienna, I'm going to separate that guy right there into a different passage. Sometimes the things have to be separated, or even the narrating character identified a little bit differently, but this actually looks really pretty good. And so we're going to go ahead and just do it. We're just going to make it spoken. And so now it's going through the narration. And so this takes just a moment. And so you can see we do large batches of narration at a time. And for a whole novel, this again takes maybe around 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, depending on the size of the novel. And so we'll email you when that gets completed. But for a standalone work, you can just sit here and just watch the magic happen. And then we'll be able to just play it exactly as it will end up on the network. And so we're almost there. This has, I think, a little bit more than 50 passages, maybe 58 or 60 passages, something like that. And boom, they're all done. So let's just listen to it here.
Welcome to the Audioverse by Phil Marshall,
Sienna?
Derek said, breaking their long silence as they stared upward at the stars. Sienna took in and let out a long, wistful breath.
Okay, now Sienna is a British female, a young British female, and they're speculating about different voices. And so you can see this line here later in the story. I'd say things in an American accent, like, I'm going down the road a piece. Well, she's saying this in an American accent, but if you play it as is,
I'd say things in an American accent, like, I'm going down the road a piece to gnaw on some bison jerky and then shoot me some tin cans with my 22.
Well, that's just wrong. And so let me just go ahead and correct that right now. I'd say things in an American accent, like, I'm going down the road a piece to gnaw on some bison jerky and then shoot me some tin cans with my 22. And lo and behold, when you put that through narration, and we're going to watch it here until it turns green, it's going to come out exactly as I said it. And so you're able to control the delivery exactly the way you want it.
I'd say things in an American accent, like, I'm going down the road a piece to gnaw on some bison jerky and then shoot these some tin cans with that 22.
So that helps you make sure that it's exactly as you want it. And with the help of lexicon that will automatically put phonetic corrections to words that are difficult to pronounce, and I hear you your and fantasy writers on that, you're going to be all good. So now all you have to do is just upload your audio, your cover art. So in this case, my Audioverse cover art, set it to private. So don't have more of these out there on the network. And then you can designate whether or not you'd like the listener potentially to be able to sponsor translation into a different language, or even just into a single additional narrator of their choice. That's a feature that we're going to be coming out with later. And then once you're done there, you are all good. If your tags are all good, you want to maybe add some more tags. That's totally cool for discoverability. Publish, we stitch, and then it's ready to go on the network. And so that's it. That's an entire story from beginning to finish on Spoken. And there it is.
Welcome to the Audioverse by Phil Marshall.
So there we go.
All right, fantastic.
And you can share it easily as well. We have a nice social sharing function there that you can share it as well. So hopefully that gives your viewers here a really good sense of what's possible on Spoken, to start to really get their works out there, whether they be short works or full audiobooks.
Fantastic. Thank you for that demonstration, Phil. Spoken looks like a great platform. Is there anything else that we haven't covered so far that you want to make sure that any viewers watching this know about Spoken, whether that's part of the tool or just part of your passion about what you're, trying to bring to the writing industry?
Yeah, I would say that if there is anything, it's just that remember that we're in beta. We are right there alongside you, and you're alongside of us to create a great solution for you to be able to create perfect, compelling audio of your works to readers. And so we want feedback. We've got a lot of work to do. There may be problems, there may be bugs, there may be errors, but just know that we are dedicated to making sure that this works for authors, both from a product standpoint and from a business model standpoint, and for listeners in creating just the most perfectly narrated works that just will keep them listening endlessly.
Wonderful. And Andrew, any parting words for the viewers from you?
Oh, we are just really thrilled to have the opportunity to talk about Spoken with some folks who take their work very seriously, and we want them to come in and kick the tires and let us know, does this work well for them? Does it suit them? What do they think about how this changes their approach? Does it change it at all? We want to we're working very hard to try and bridge that gap for the creative community and the ethics around AI, and do it in a way that allows folks to take advantage of this tool in a new and interesting way. And we really just want to feel that out and make sure we're doing it right. And anything and everything that the elegant literature community has to share with us, we are all open. We're open to criticism. We're open to everything. So thanks again for the huge opportunity, and we look forward to working together.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this collaboration as well. In the short few months that I've known you guys, and we've been setting these things up and having our conversations, your company's moving so fast with respect to initiating new tools, and adapting to feedback. I know when we first met, I tried out the tool, I tried out Spoken, and gave you some feedback. And then I think that 2 weeks later we were talking, and you told me how you had almost pretty much fixed everything I had brought up as a concern. And like, from knowing the two of you, your passion and your drive for this, your enthusiasm is contagious, and the motivations behind what we're all trying to do here is make a positive impact on the writing industry and help authors, established authors, sure, but especially, you're making it more accessible for newer authors to start getting their work out there and start possibly bringing in revenue streams and making storytelling a viable career path. And that's something that I'm obviously very passionate about, which is why I think this is such a good match. So I'm really excited to work with you guys. Very glad that we're doing this collaboration. Thank you so much for having this interview with me and giving such a great demo of the product. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Really appreciate it.